firstly, let me just say a huge congratulations to all of you. You've done incredibly well to achieve a top 10 mark, and I feel like a bit of an imposter standing here, actually. I don't think I ever came close. CIMA is really hard. Maybe not for you high achievers, but I'm here to say that there are so many different routes to success, and CIMA has been so important to mine. I didn't have A-levels, I didn't go to university, and yet now I'm the finance manager of a £100 million startup. Without CIMA, this wouldn't have been possible. My aim for today is to tell you a little bit about my journey, some key moments along the way, and some things that I've learned, and hope that in a way of sharing those things with you, that you can apply them to your own lives, and it might be useful. So first of all, I want to begin with something I learned in my first role. So in secondary school, you may have had the same. In year 9, we were allowed to take a week off to go and do work experience. I decided, I really like property. At the time I was thinking about becoming an architect, and I decided that working in an estate agent might be a really great way to I guess, start to learn a bit more about property. So I went around my town and went to all of the different branches and offered my services. One of the estate agents took me on, gave me a role for a week, and I worked really, really hard. I really tried to convert that from, I guess, just a week's work experience into a job. I was successful. They offered me a role, firstly in admin, but I quickly got promoted into lettings. But it was the sales side of the business that really interested me. I spoke to my boss, so I said, Darren, I want to work in the sales team. What do I need to do to move into the sales team? And he said to me, Harry, you can't work in the sales team. You're 15 years old. I can't put you in front of people looking to buy a home when it's pretty clear that you never have. Fair enough. But I didn't give up. I said there was this property we had on the market for about 2 years. It had been deemed unsellable by the entire sales team. They had all given up. I said to my boss, if I can sell that home, can I move into the sales team? He'd think I didn't have a chance. I didn't think I had a chance. But he agreed, and as you can see where this is going. 1 week later, I had actually sold the home. Complete luck, frankly. To be honest, the right people came in, and they liked it. So that's great. But my boss stayed true to his word, and he let me move into sales. He wasn't wrong. I would stand outside properties waiting for people to turn up to view a property, and that initial reaction when they first saw me, they expected to see an adult, right? They expected to walk along and see an adult, and they saw 15-year-old me standing outside. I look young now. Imagine how young I look then. So 15-year-old me standing outside, and that initial doubt was obvious. I was often asked, "Whose kid are you?" But nonetheless, we went about the viewing, and quite quickly they realised actually I knew what I was talking about. We went around and answered their questions. I knew about the area. I knew the answers to what they wanted to know. They quickly forgot about how old I was. This brings me on to something really, really important, that none of that would have been possible actually without preparation. I spent way longer than the other sales negotiators learning about each property because I knew that I was going to have that initial challenge to overcome. So I spent way longer, and in the end it paid off. So I think the key message here is that people are always going to underestimate you, especially you overachievers. You're going to find yourselves in new situations more often than others, situations in which you might be younger or less experienced than other people in the room. This is okay, you don't need to be worried. You're in that room for a reason, and as long as you prepare and believe in yourself, you will be fine. Listen, observe, and show them what you know. Looking back, my career could have been very different. I then applied for, I was still sort of quite young, I applied for college. One of the courses I applied to do was the accounting A-level. I didn't meet the entry criteria, so you needed a B in English language GCSE, and I had a C. So unfortunately I didn't get in, but they said to me, Harry, there's this other qualification you can do. It's called AAT, and it's actually more practical, it's quite good. You can do it in the evenings actually, which worked well for me because it meant I could work more during the day. And I fundamentally And it's interesting, so my AAT teacher was actually a CIMA qualified member. And in the way that all accountants think that their qualification is best, CIMA is the best. But he enlightened me to the possibility of becoming a CGMA. I did the research and I realised I think a lot of the things that we said earlier around CIMA being a management accounting course, the M being key, which is that it's not an accounting qualification. Yes, you become an accountant. Yes, you know how to balance the books and etc. But you learn about HR, you learn about IT, you learn about strategy, you learn about how to turn those insights into action and to implement things. And I think that that's really key for CIMA and why I think it's such a valuable qualification. But I fundamentally believe, actually, that if I had done the normal accounting A-level, I probably wouldn't be standing here talking to you today. I wouldn't have known as much about CIMA, and definitely wouldn't be qualified right now. So I think the key learning here is that sometimes things don't happen how you plan them, but keep in mind where you want to end up and be open to opportunities. As coined in The Alchemist, when you want something, all of the universe conspires in helping you achieve it. So I actually began CIMA self-funded. I realised it was a good qualification and I wanted to do it. I tried to get my employer to pay, but I was working in sales at the time, and when I spoke to my employer about this, I spoke to my boss and I said, I really want to do this qualification, I'm not going to go to university now, but I'm going to do CIMA instead. I want this qualification behind me. I think you could really use a management accountant, this is why. He wasn't interested. He said, no Harry, we prefer you in sales. Clearly my sales skills weren't that good, but in the end, I said to him, that's fine, I'm going to look for opportunities. I'm going to try and find a company to offer me that finance study support. And I did. I looked up and down the country. I didn't really care where it ended up being. I just wanted the role. So I applied for any role that had study support. And in the end, got offered a role at a company called Newton Europe, which is an operational consultancy in Oxford, which was 3 hours away from where I lived at the time with my mum and my brother. So it was a really big decision to move out and to move away. I had the interviews. I gave it my best shot to see if I would get the job, and in the end, in fact, I remember the time that they offered me the role. So I was in my living room watching TV with my mum. I knew to expect the call. The recruiter had sort of told me that to be expecting it. And so I got the call. I was excited. I stood up and I answered, and we had a chat. And my boss, or my would-be boss, Lucas, discussed with me all of the benefits, all of the package, etc. What I'm going to get by working there. And I tried to be quite calm. On the phone, I said, "That's really great. Thank you very much. I just need some time to think about it. I'll come back to you." I sort of hung up the phone and turned to my mum, and I think the first thing I said was, "We need to talk." And she said, "You don't need to talk, Harry. I can see the smile on your face. You're going for this role. You don't need to worry about moving away. I will support you." So that was really excellent, I think, to have that support from my mum, which really meant that I was able to go out and learn and work in the field that I wanted to. There were two really important things I learned at Newton. It was an excellent place to work, and the first thing I want to talk about is the importance of culture and investing in your people. Newton did this in a really big way. They had a dedicated learning and development function. That's unheard of for a business of just a few hundred. And had tons of social events. We had a summer party, a Christmas party. They subsidised 5 trips away every year, and every 2 weeks got the entire company together for a conference and party and free bar, and it was fun. But they really focused on your people development. They really focused on sending people on training, and feedback was such an ingrained part of the culture. It meant that actually no one could hide, and everyone was just honest with each other, which was really, really great. Yes, it cost a lot of money. We accountants can sometimes struggle with the idea of spending so much on non-revenue generating activities, but the truth is that every single person seriously struggled with deciding to leave and worked incredibly hard for a business that they knew invested back into them. There's a great quote that sums this up, often used in management classes. The CFO asks the CEO, "What if we invest in our people and they leave?" To which the CEO responds, "But what if we don't and they stay?" And I think that's just really important. Please do keep that in mind in your own organisations. Generation Z and millennials, we care more and more about this is quickly becoming the expectation. Think about the triple bottom line: people, planet, profit. Secondly, at Newton, I learned about the importance of having the right manager. So my manager, he was really difficult. He would never give me a straight answer to a question. He would push it straight back at me. I remember being handed the fixed assets, so I was accounting for all of the fixed assets, and I was doing my first disposal. And I came to him, I said, I'm doing this, I don't quite know what to do. And he said, yeah, sure, no worries. What's the double entry? And every single question I asked him, he came back to that. It was his favourite question: what's the double entry? He would make me get a piece of paper, a pen, and write it down. What are the debits, what are the credits, and why? And he would challenge me. I would write it down. Even if it was right, he would make me tell him why it was right. This rigour and coaching mindset meant that I'm now able, I have the confidence to make those decisions for myself, where I am now responsible for them as a finance manager. And aside from the technical skills, he picked me up a lot on my professional presentation. So the way I asked questions, or the way I gave answers, the way I conducted myself in meetings, the way people perceived me. Perception is reality was another favourite saying of his. So the key lesson here is twofold. First of all, pick the right manager. The manager you have will directly impact your career progression in a massive way. I fundamentally believe that if I hadn't had him as my manager, then I wouldn't be a finance manager right now. I wouldn't have learned what I've learned. So there's no getting around it. If you have a bad manager, find a new job, is my advice. Secondly, the lesson is to be the right manager. In fact, a lot of you people in here might already have a team below you, and you owe them that responsibility to take it seriously. It will benefit you in the long term, because you'll be able to move through the organisation by having your replacement ready. So since Newton, I worked for a year in a big public company called CAE. They're the biggest pilot training organisation in the world, and I was the finance point of contact for 5 of our entities across Europe. It was an interesting year, but there was one specific moment that I'd like to share with you. It's a real success story of something CIMA likes to talk about a lot: business partnering, which we spoke about earlier. So I was responsible for doing the budget for the next financial year. The budget for this year had been a mess, so it was really important to get it right. And equally, we weren't doing great financially, so it was important to find the cost-saving initiatives. One of which was headcount. We need to make sure that we had enough people to do the job, but equally not too many. So we went around, we assessed, and there was one specific area, which was our ground school. So essentially the classroom-based learning aspect of the pilot's journey. And we felt, based on calculations, that actually we had too many ground school instructors. It's a number of, you have a certain number of classes, you have to teach a certain number of subjects. It's pretty much a mathematical equation. So we calculated that you needed 9 instructors, but our chief ground school instructor, Steve, he thought he needed at least 13. This is quite a big mismatch, so it was left to me to go to Steve and have that conversation and say, I'm really sorry, you can't have these people, or whatever it may be. But I didn't want to go like that, so I went to him and I said, Steve, I need your help. I've got a problem that I need your input on. So I've been tasked with calculating how many instructors we need next year, and I've only calculated 9, but I'm aware that you think you need 13, so let's have a chat. I want to find out what my calculation is missing. This flipped the conversation completely, from one of confrontation to one of collaborative problem solving, working together for a shared solution. In the end, we decided together that we needed 10 employees, and the problem being before that we had our team trained in the wrong way. So think of it as we had too many science teachers and not enough history teachers. It was actually quite hard to see from the outside, but when you got under the detail, it became quite obvious. So I gave Steve the budget to retrain some of his staff, and we agreed to cut the team to 10, which was quite a significant cost saving. These weren't cheap employees, all being ex-pilots. So I think that the key point I want to just stress here is the importance of partnering, but beyond, I think, just going to people with numbers, but seek to understand first, seek to listen and work on a problem together, rather than just saying, well, these are what the numbers are saying, understand what they're saying first. So to tell you a little bit about what I'm doing right now, I lead the day-to-day finance operations of the startup I mentioned earlier. We're a biotech company, we're pre-revenue, we're developing a really cool blood testing device that can scan a pinprick of blood for a range of different biomarkers and diagnose things like cancer, heart disease in as little as 10 minutes. Really, it can save lives, so it's really an exciting product. We got £30 million funding at the start of this year, valuing us up to 100 million, and we'll be doing a Series B next year. So it's growing a lot. We've gone from 20 employees to 80 now, and we'll expect that to grow. And as you can imagine, being the finance manager, in fact the first, pretty much setting up this finance function, it's been really action-packed. The last 9 months I've learned a lot. I've recruited 3 direct reports. I've implemented an ERP system, brought the payroll and management accounts in-house. I've developed the forecasting architecture, supported the implementation of better governance, and now I'm gearing up to do our external audit and R&D tax calculations. Truly, there hasn't been enough time in the day. And this brings me onto my final point. Don't burn yourself out. Working hard is incredibly important. You all know this because, well, you wouldn't be here today if you didn't work hard. But you need to find the right balance between working hard and also having a personal life. Take a holiday, a long weekend, go home early on a Friday. Flexible working is so important, and you need to make sure that you get the rest that your body needs. Doing CIMA around your job isn't easy, and you have to find what works for you. Thank you so much for listening to me. I hope some of it has resonated with you. Finally, I just want to leave you with this. Set massive, unrealistic goals. As they say, aim for the moon, and even if you miss, you'll still end up among the stars. Believe in yourself, work hard, keep the end goal in mind, but be flexible, be open to opportunities, and for goodness sake, enjoy the journey. Life happens so quickly. Celebrate your achievements, have fun, take breaks, and most of all, never stop learning. Thank you.